Hi, my name is Walter van den Houten. I'm 32 years old, senior software engineer at Tecaris, and I enjoy long walks on the beach.
Hi, my name is Pfeffer. I'm one of the founders of Tecaris and currently one of the CEOs. And from the bottom of my heart, I'm a software developer and software architect.
I am Mohammed Ahmed. I am working with Tecaris, working on project for reinsurance products.
Hi, I'm Arno. I'm a software engineer in Tecaris since 3 years now. And I'm a lot focused on Azure development, web application development, and all our development process is going through Git repositories, and therefore we are working with pull requests.
Hi, I'm Daniel. I'm a senior software engineer at Tecaris. Sure.
Yes, I would.
That's the question actually. If you want actually to run a pull request on your machine, does it make sense? Do you have the infrastructure for that, or do you trust the code which is written enough in order not to make it run on a machine? I wouldn't therefore reject it if it doesn't run on my machine, because I wouldn't make it run ultimately on my machine.
It's a good question. It really depends on whether I have my environment set up correctly and whether I can trust the pull request itself. If it is a pull request that's about scripts or something that I can validate in other ways, even though it doesn't run on my machine, that would be okay.
Yeah, in my opinion, you should never accept a pull request if you are not able to run it on your test machine.
No, it could be a problem with my local machine. I have to check first with the developer, and I also have to take a look at the code itself. Maybe the code can tell me a lot. Maybe it's really something with my machine, not with the implementation itself. So yeah, need a deep investigation.
No, I don't think it should.
Pull request, in my opinion, should never replace a unit test. Instead, it should extend testing.
No. Sorry for the short answer, but no.
No, definitely not. Unit testing is a part of the process. It ensures that the core functions are working as expected. However, the pull request is just to make sure the code quality or the standards that runs across the team is followed and implemented.
Nah, it's not the same benefit as a unit test. A unit test is there to ensure that you don't have any regression in your development. Pull request is more there in order to obtain feedbacks from your colleagues, from other developers you are working with, in order to see if you can improve what you are doing, the functionality you just implemented.
No chance. No, pull requests are not a method for testing. Pull requests are a different security or different quality measurement in order to make sure that code has been seen by multiple people, that ambiguities are taken out. Like, it will have naming conventions, it will have different styles of code, making sure that everything has been taken into account and that the code actually functions.
If I have to,
Yes.
I would choose the pull request because there is some other humans involved. That's the interesting part.
Pull request.
I would choose pull request.
That's a good question. I think I would work with a pull request because it will show me the differences and compare between the old state and the new state. And it can even give me a hint what we can enhance overall, not just for this pull request, but for the project as an entity.
Pull request, definitely pull request, because it really brings, you have with pull request visions of other people being able to judge what you did and to help you improve what you did.
I don't think they are even in the same world, in the same category. So I think I would rather still trust the pull requests, because the static code analysis does not understand your code, whereas a person might.
Is there such a thing as a perfect pull request? I wouldn't judge that on the amount of files, basically. I would more judge that on what does the pull request bring to your application. It depends. If you have a pull request for an entire functionality, then it may impact a couple of files because you modified the interface, because you modified not only the behavior of one specific class. So it can have a wide impact on the application, even if the functionality you try to implement is rather small.
I think there is no specific number.
It highly depends on the pull request and the feature we are working on. I believe if it's something to do with refactoring for a feature that's being used everywhere, then probably I will maybe touch 100 files. It depends on how deep it is. So there is no specific answer, it just depends on the pull request. But it depends also on the scope of what the pull request does. So, yeah.
That's a difficult question. I think it depends a little bit on the team and on the team experience, but I personally think around 10 to 15 files, it shouldn't be more.
It really depends on what kind of pull request it is. If you're doing huge refactorings, then usually if it only touches a few things, then it's probably not that you refactored everything. Anything that fits to the feature or the task that you're doing, a good pull request is probably between 10 and 30 files or something, if it's just something small. If you're doing huge rework, it's more.
Oh, good question. As much as it makes sense.
That's always a topic of discussion. In the project I was working for, actually the developer who provided the pull request decided whether he wanted to accept the review comments or not.
I would say the team. Or at least if the team cannot find an answer, you should have at least an architect or in dev lead, or at least an existing rule which should decide about go or no go.
I think it's a bit of both. Like both of them need to reach an agreement what should be changed and in what scope, and also if another pull request should be like another let's say backlog item or another task should be implemented with a different pull request. So both of them need to agree on what to accept or not.
I think they should decide together, because if there is one guy who would decline it, then it should not be accepted.
It should always be the reviewers, because the person who writes it or creates the pull request are the ones that, I mean, you wouldn't kill your own baby, right?
Both, I would say. If you have a feedback on a pull request, and if you don't necessarily agree with this feedback, basically how are you going to solve this conflict between you and the reviewer? It's all a matter of trade-offs in the end.
Well, that's a tricky question, but it depends on the pull request. Let's say if I just change something in a document, or a change a word, or change add a dot or something like that, like something to do with syntax, like, I'm sorry, not syntax, something to do with typos or something, yes, I think I can approve my own pull request.
I can, but I should not. No, if there's a rule, you should not, then you should not do it. But in case of some bugs, hot fixes, and no team availability or something like this, you have to react, then you have to react.
Yeah.
But it's the total exception.
Me personally, yes.
Debatable. If you are doing pair programming and it would take more time for the other person to go to his computer in order to approve it, then maybe not. Like maybe yes, maybe it's okay. But then at least write in a comment that it's been approved by somebody else, and preferably which person, so that it at least can be tracked.
You should avoid it, but there could be a situation where you have to, and you should minimize these situations.
Technically, yes. Should you do it? I'm not sure. Why would you even use pull request in this case, except for tracking the changes you made? It doesn't have any benefit to approve your own pull request. Definitely, because you find a compromise with the developers you are working with every day. It means that normally when you start a project, you've already set up your guideline, your style guides, and so on. But having other opinions on the code which is written does improve the code quality, or makes it at least go into one specific direction.
Yes, definitely. So I think once the code is reviewed by multiple developers, that always helps code quality.
Yes, of course, because different people can look over the code and see if code is unclean.
Yes, it does, totally.
Absolutely, not a doubt.
Definitely, because instead of just having one set of eyes looking at the code, then you have multiple set of eyes looking at the same code, and then you can gain like you can get an opinion from another person, or maybe we can enhance this a little bit, because it depends on the experience, of course, the experience level. Maybe you're not experienced enough to come up with a good design, and another person can give you some couple of hints.
They should. I think ultimately by having pull requests, people will start to think more about their code. People will start to share more about how code should be written. So if you have your juniors, your mid-levels, even sometimes your seniors, if they start to learn from each other, then ultimately it might increase productivity, because people will start writing the same programming style. People will start to understand each other's code quicker and better, and ultimately you'll have less time of switching between understanding and actually writing code.
Once the team gets used to it, yes.
Not necessarily. I mean, it depends. Still, what increases the productivity is the work itself. A pull request is just a stage of the work done. So if I have multiple pull requests but for just one feature, then I'm not productive enough. It just depends on the number of work items I'm working on. This is how you measure productivity.
I wouldn't say so. You don't lose time reviewing pull requests or making pull requests. You ensure that your software has an acceptable level of quality. But it takes time, of course, to create them. It takes time to review them. It takes time to complete them. So I don't know. Maybe we could judge that like the amount of time you use for unit tests, for example, which takes for me more or less 20-25% of my time. That's more or less the same, I guess, for pull requests.
In the end, yes, because maybe your code is more clean, is more bug-free, maybe is free of misunderstandings, and in the end you save time you do not have bugs, you have implemented the right thing at the right place, yeah, it saves time, absolutely.
First of all, no, but because there's much of effort with what the team has to take, but in the end you have less bugs, and so yeah, in the end it decreases. There has to be always one senior in this decision, and but you always have to be, there have to be more people. So if there's one senior, it's enough, I think.
Not only, and it can actually be quite beneficial for a junior developer because you see a lot of things you should do or you should not do, depends on the pull request in the application, I guess. But when I started to work, basically I started on a maintenance topic, so I was only doing maintenance on a VB.NET application. And it helps a lot to see code from other people and to analyze this code, try to understand and to improve what they did. And the pull requests are really perfect for that. So I guess that's a good tool as well for junior developers to improve themselves.
No, it's a team job. Everybody should be able to do this and have to do this.
Not necessarily. I think that everyone can benefit from reviewing pull requests.
Nope. I think that juniors can sometimes also learn from seniors by doing pull requests. Of course, they are more inclined to then just say like, oh, this looks great and whatever you do is gold. But it still is worthwhile that they read it. And ideally, like in those kind of scenarios, you could at least say that some senior needs to approve it as well, or something along those lines. I'm sure there could be rules that work for the projects individually.
No, it's yeah, maybe a senior can give comments, but also the junior, for example, can learn from the pull requests. If they have, if they can look at the pull request, which also the senior is taking care of, they can learn from this communication, learn from the comments, get a hint or two, and use them in the future in their own pull requests. No, this is something also needs to be discussed with the pull request initiator. And if there's something you don't understand, you communicate with a developer who came up with this pull request and try to understand how it's implemented this way. Maybe he has a point. Yeah.
You should decide of if you want to accept a pull request just because of the code which was edited.
Sometimes you bring in changes you don't want to have there. It was a good meaning, you say, oh, maybe it can be done better, but sometimes you introduce more other stuff, side effects, something like this. It is obvious, okay, but should be not the rule.
So in the project, we noticed a couple of times that some people have the tendency to do this. I think if it's not done by, if it's not done in excess, I think it could be okay. Like it could be suggestions. Oh, while you were in this file, maybe you also want to change these method names, or maybe you also want to change this just because you're there. If it becomes at some point too much for the pull request, if it stops being about what the pull request is about, if it just starts to be like nitpicking, then I think that it's not appropriate anymore.
I wouldn't do that. I think that hinders your productivity.
It's not the goal of the pull request, in my opinion. It should be then handled in another pull request, or handled as a bug fix or as a new feature. A pull request should be, what should be a pull request? Basically, it should be centered either on, focused either on the functionality, or either on the bug fixing, or either on improvements. But you cannot expect someone to take the benefit of having an open pull request and saying, oh, by the way, in the same time, I'm going to fix this bug. It really depends on a project. I mean, in a small team of 2-3 people, usually all the pull requests are resolved during a couple of hours, or worst case, during the day. If you take a look at bigger projects like, I don't know, the .NET Foundations projects or the .NET Core framework, they have thousands of pull requests open currently. Of course, they cannot close everything during the day. So it's really a matter of projects.
I say within a week. Yeah.
As much as is needed. So should be done in a reasonable time frame, because the pull request owner started other things, or maybe some dependencies exist between my pull request and or the pull request and other stuff. It should be a very short time frame.
The time to review and to accept should be as less as possible. You have to be fast with it, because the code can be changed already again, and yeah.
Difficult question. I think it should be as soon as possible. So normally I would appreciate when a pull request is approved or rejected at latest the next day.
That's a good question. I would say ideally a couple of days max. That multiple people see the same code. You might have the same over pair programming, but then it's only the people who were actively there. With pull requests, it's that everybody could look in and everybody could have a chance to start understanding and maybe contribute to the code that's been written. And I think overall that would improve the code quality.
Really to have the ability to keep stable, a high quality of your application, high code quality, and to make other people see what you are doing and to see what other people are doing, so you know a little bit what's happening, everything which is happening into your application normally if you take a look at all the pull requests.
For me, it's like if I make a pull request and I get comments on my design or on my implementation to make it better, then I am improving myself as a developer, because then I'm increasing my skill set and also my way of thinking. So this is the greatest benefit for me.
A second developer or a second teammate just did look at what I did, and a second opinion is always important. And even if the pull request is just completed without any comment, it's also fine.
Yeah.
It's more or less the same as you do a pair programming or something like this. It improves the code quality dramatically, because if you only work in your own way and you live in your own world, it cannot be good as to have the second opinion.
The biggest benefit is that many people can look at the code and can see if there's not clean code in it, and they can understand what other people did, and there's a transition of knowledge of the team.
I think it improves code quality and product quality a lot.
Isn't that what you just asked?
The first one is for you personally?
Oh.
Or is there a difference? Maybe there is.
No, that's the exact same.
Okay.
It's our project is pretty complex. So a pull request with multiple people looking at the pull request helps us to cut it into chunks and understand what is doing what and where. So It's like another approach of understanding what's going on in the back that you are not aware of, like the parts you're not aware of yet.
For a project, yeah, code quality for sure, and save time because introducing less bugs. Yeah, implemented the right thing. Yeah, and again, did I say code quality? Yeah, that's the biggest advantage of this. Yeah.
If members of a team will quit or are ill, other team member can take their code because they saw it already and they know what to do there.
Less bugs.
I think it's the same there. It's mostly that the information and the knowledge gets shared instead of that it just stays with the person that checked it in. It allows. It requires that if somebody transfers out of the project or somebody transfers into the projects, that also the learning curve is less hard.
I would say if we are going beyond 3 pull requests, then that's too many. Of course, I'm talking about with the same person.
In the end, 1, because it's stopped doing me the right thing. That's the point. Sometimes there's a good reason for it to have open pull requests, but it should have a good reason. But in the end, 1 can be too much.
It depends on the team size, but again, you should be fast with acceptance of a pull request, and if you're fast there, you have less opening.
I can't tell. It's hard to say to tell a number here.
It depends on the size of the project. It depends on the size of the team. But in general, I think on average, I could say 1 per developer, maybe 2 per developer on certain cases where your pull requests are rather small. Like if it's only a bug fix and another bug fix and another bug fix, then it could very well be that 1 person has multiple pull requests open. If it's a feature thing, then I would suggest that 1 pull request is open. In the meantime, they're working on something else. So, and in the time of the pull request being open, or at least in the time of working on a new feature, the first pull request should already be reviewed and hopefully closed.
Still depends on how wide the project is. I mean, on a small project like the one I'm working on, it's if we have 3, 4 pull requests which are open, that's too much already. We know that we're gonna lose the pace if we don't take a look at those pull requests. If you take a look at bigger projects, they have thousands, like I told on the .NET Core framework, they have thousands of pull requests open. Yeah, obviously that's too much because you lose track of what is open, I guess. But I guess their organization team makes it a little bit easier for them. It's all a matter of a project in the end.
Somehow, yes. Yeah, I would say this is a good comparison, but the point is to have a good pair. When I do these pair programming, I need a counterpart, a good counterpart. For the code review, I don't need this perfect counterpart. Pair programming is more interacting with people. I have the same mindset. Yeah, but it's somehow similar, yes.
No, it's like testing an extension, but you should never replace it with one of the other techniques.
I still think that pair programming is great for complicated regions in the code. So no, I don't think it's really a substitute.
Yes and no. Sometimes a task doesn't allow itself to be pair programmed very well if it's just tedious execution tasks. And sometimes it is perfectly replaceable. Sometimes it is indeed just having multiple people see the same stuff?
Not really, but they don't have the same goal as well. During pair programming, you need actually someone's help to implement a functionality or to develop a part of your application, because you lack knowledge. For example, I don't know, I need to implement an Angular component and I need to make it beautiful. I'm with CSS and HTML. I basically don't know how to do CSS. Therefore, I will need help of our UI developer. And that's the goal of pair programming, basically, to be able to implement something together with someone else, with the help of someone else. The goal of a pull request is more to say, hey, guys, I did something by myself. I think that's the good way to do it, but can you please agree with me that I did it correctly?
Yes and no. It could be, I don't know, honestly, it could be, but it also can be an invitation for pair programming. So yeah, in itself, yeah, if you get comments and then you implement these comments, then I guess that's also pair programming, but it also can be invitation for pair programming.
Again, no.
Yes, I think so. So I think code quality and can benefit a lot when you only work with pull requests.
I would say they are code reviews. So I think a pull request is a code review. It's not just a style review. It's not just a quality review. It's just that, is this code correct? Surely enough, you can always still make code reviews afterwards in order to see if things are correct. But then it's about architectural decisions in most cases.
They are part of the code review process, in my opinion, because that's you have multiple possibilities of pull requests. You can check if you can put policies in order to check if your unit tests are still passing. You can check the linting of your application. You can even build your application before in order to be sure that you are not having issue during the build process itself. But the biggest part of the pull request is still to have feedbacks on the code you wrote, and that's the code review as well. I guess they could be a substitute for code review. They are not a substitute of asking questions when you have a doubt, asking your colleagues if you need help or whatever, because it will always be more beneficial to talk with someone, to ask him directly about his opinion. Hey, did I do that in a correct way or not? Than having pull requests. But the ultimate code review now, in my opinion, happens in a pull request.
Aren't they the same thing? I mean, if I'm changing something in the code and I submit it and somebody else is looking at it and he's reviewing my code. So let's say both of them are the same for me.
Very good. Thank you for your answers.
Thank you.
In my opinion, a code review at all is a review of a bigger chunk of a project or even the whole project. A pull request and the code review is a part of the pull request, but not at all. But we can talk about this with a glass of red wine, maybe 2 or 3.
Thank you. That's it.
Okay.
Now it's time for product placement.
Oh. Adelholzener Wasser, naturell.
Yep, there it is.
Very good. Okay, thank you for your time.
Thanks.
Any last words?
RIP.